welcome back. This is a video to show you how to add a new stage to your maze game, or essentially a new level. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to start off, we're going to get to stage 1 on our component tree, and it should bring up our sort of stages here. We're going to click the button up over here, and we'll get a fresh stage out of that. We're going to set the background. I've given you some options. I'm going to pick the ocean for mine, but you can choose whatever works for you. There's space, for example, you might want to use. So I'm going to go with ocean. And I actually want to make sure it fits better, so I'm going to go with stretch instead of scale. I'm going to add some wall sprites here, so I can go down here to our sprite class. I'm going to start building a new maze of sorts, and remember we can manipulate the wall sprites with the notches there. So I'm gonna make something pretty basic. I'm not gonna go really deep into complex creation here, just so I can show you guys how this all we can get. You get the basic idea. You move on with your own. All right, so I've got a basic wall set up. I'm gonna add a target sprite, a new target sprite somewhere. Put it in here, for example. Drag it out, put it in. Should say, I'm going to rename it just so it's, when I'm coding, it'll be easier to find. Just call it target 2. And that's about it. So notice that we didn't add another ball sprite. We're going to use the same ball sprite. I'm going to show you how to code that now. So I'm going over to the blocks, and it's still the same sort of block area. So I'm going to find some space. I can also collapse these since I'm not going to do any more coding with them. And that'll give me a little more space to work with. I'm going to manipulate the space a little bit. All right, so I'll do some coding down here. And so first thing I'm going to do is create a level 2 procedure. So I'm going to grab out the procedure blocks. I'm going to call this level 2. We're going to do a couple things. Number one is when this procedure is called, we want to stop whatever music is playing. And we want to change the source to, how about the level 2 music? And we'll make sure that that plays. And one thing we're going to need to do is move the ball between stages. So I think it's here under motion. And we're looking to find a block that will allow us to move it to stage 2. Is that here somewhere? Maybe it's under stage. Motion. Aha, here it is. Okay, so we'll put move our ball to stage 2. And then what else we need to do? We want to make sure it's placed in stage 2 in a specific place. So we'll move our ball to, grab this thing out of here. And we'll put it at 25, 25. Sure, using the ball. We want to make sure, it's probably a good idea to switch the current stage to stage 2. And then we want to turn on our timers. So we'll go timer 1. We'll turn our timer back on because we turned it off at the end of the last level. That's not the right thing. Sorry. We'll get timer 1 enabled. It's down here. And then we'll also want our animation timer. So we'll duplicate this, pop it in. I'll find our animation timer. There we go. And then the last thing that we're going to need to do is we need to add this function in, or the second to last thing, excuse me, it's the last thing essentially. We're going to add this to the when the ball type hits the target sprite, so we got to find that. It's over here. I'm just going to drag it down. Get this out of the way. Okay, so when the ball type collides with the target sprite, we're going to add a condition to the bottom. So do if do else. So if our levels variable is equal to 2, then what we're going to do is we're going to call the level 2 function, or else we'll simply end the game. And if you're going to add more levels, you would use the same idea. You would add some else ifs. You build functions for each level that you want the music to change and the background to change and whatnot. And that's how you would do it. You would just add it into here. Okay. If you want to add more villains, you have to code those separately. And remember to move the, I would add, say, for example, a villain 2 movement. Well, okay, why don't I just show you to do it? This is not required, but if you were, imagine you had a villain, another villain out there. So let's call this villain 2 move. And let's actually just make another villain just so it's clear what we're doing. So imagine we're on stage 2. And we want to pull out a villain sprite. And it doesn't have to be this one. We could create another sprite type. We could manipulate this villain a lot of different ways, but say we put him in and we go to the blocks. And then the way we would do it is, it's kind of a mess, sorry. So we want to code up villain 2. And we do something like set villain 2's direction, or rather angle. Find it, villain. Oh, you know what? This is why it's important to name villains or name our sprites, because who are we even talking about here? So let's get this right. So this is villain 2. And if we go to the box and go down, find our code. So this is, we're going to want to set villain 2's angle to 0. And depending on how we want this villain to move, we might want to set the motion to, we'll set the speed to use this x value, and then we want to add in this function to level 2. So villain 2 move, we'll put it in here. Okay, that's how you can code up another level in your game.